Good morning. My question is, let's say the Federal Reserve is finally ended and we're looking to implement a new system. The Congress, how much faith would you have in Congress not implementing a more disastrous system, or even worse yet, a global currency? And what would your thoughts be on combating that?
Yeah. He said, if we audit the Fed and we get rid of the Fed, what should the concern be about the Congress making it much worse, or a international central bank making much things worse? That's obviously should be a concern, but it's not enough a concern to say leave the Federal Reserve alone and let them continue to perpetuate this. The concern should drive us even more to make sure they do the right things, and we should start with, our traditions and the Constitution and the economic arguments, all the arguments I use for not going, if a national central bank, which has our dollar has become internationalized, it was a fiat dollar reserve currency, they should be all the arguments to prevent the internationalists from doing the same thing, but we would still have the people in Congress who would want to manage it. But we just have to argue our case. That becomes an intellectual argument. It becomes an educational problem. And that is why, I feel so good about what the Campaign for Liberty has been doing, because they're involved very much in education, in getting grassroots Americans to understand why it's important to not have a Federal Reserve, but to have an alternative to understand how it works and how the market works. And you don't have to go to international government, and we don't have to depend on Congress really politicizing, say, oh, we get to print the money and pass it out. That won't solve our problems either.
Sir, last question.
One more question, then we have to go.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. My question is, I have a pretty good understanding of the Federal Reserve System and the problems that it brings to us. And I have a pretty good lay understanding of Austrian school economics. What I'm lacking is an understanding of what a sound currency would actually look like. What would that end up looking like? And is there anything you could recommend that would help me to understand that better?
You're talking about, he wants to know what a sound currency would look like. I think you could probably go to the period of time in the 19th century when they had sound money and gold coins circulated, and certificates should circulate and could circulate. It's the trust factor that would have to be there, and you could still have electronic money and whatever. People could measure the value of the currency by something that should always be convertible. Murray Rothbard writes a lot about this, and you can find at the end of the Revolution book, there are various books by Murray Rothbard that will explain that, as well as at the end of the book on and the Fed. But the important thing that he taught was that you should have a gold coin standard, and that is that you don't have to carry the coins around. But if the government is guaranteeing, which they are supposed to be doing, guaranteeing that any certificate would be convertible into coin, and that's better than a bullion standard. That means that if you have $5,000 and you're getting worried about the government, you get to vote against the government saying, look, I want my gold coins in my pocket. And then they then would have to give you the gold coins. So there are examples. I think the best answers could be found, in so much of the monetary writings of Murray Rothbard. I need to close now because we are time constraints. But I want to thank you very much for coming. I am delighted that there's so much enthusiasm for monetary policy reform. And lo and behold, I believe we are going to arrive in the not too distant future when the large majority of the American people not only will want the Fed audited, but they will also want to. Thank you.
Ron Paul, a physician, has represented the 14th Congressional District of Texas for 11 terms. He's also the author of The Revolution, a Manifesto. For more information, visit ronpaul.com.